With the flick of her pen, she writes, the magic within beginning to rise. The words flow, pages unfold, the stories delight. They help you to make a smile as you take my hand. You're spirited into a dreamy land, into the story we ride, with the story spirits as our guide. Welcome everybody. This is TAMI Chambers. I want to thank you so much for joining me for another audiobook as we are reading from my Soulmates Series, book number 3, Rose and Sky. The 2 previous books, Reiki and Rock, Chaga and Chai, are also already in audiobook format on my YouTube channel and on my Spotify podcast playlist, as well as any major podcast provider. You can also play with us and take these fun stories a little bit deeper as we work magic, using them as healing workbooks on my Sunday morning Bringers of the Light Sundays, in addition to all the other content we put out there. Also, all my ebooks are free to read, fiction and nonfiction, and you can find them at the links in all the notes of these episodes. Google Books, Apple Books, Barnes & Nobles, and my ebook publisher, Smashwords. We also do fun things with the books and have our Bringers of the Light fanverse on my Patreon channel, TLC for the Soul. Links to everything I talk about are always in the descriptions of each show. So now, with that aside, we're going to get into Rose and Sky. This is Rose and Sky, Soulmates Series number 3, written by TAMI Chambers. The dedication: romance and magic go hand in hand. It's always more fun when there are magical blessings involved. This book and the spirit friends that grace its pages are the magic behind the romance that keeps me writing. Thank you, friends. All right, the start of any new book here. Gotta get my voices in sync. This is Rose and Sky, Chapter 1, Equilibrium. As Chandra disembarked from Southwest Flight 105, she took a deep breath in preparation for her return to Soul Step. She had just spent several weeks in Shasta, and the latter part had been a little rough. She had never anticipated or expected that she would have done what she had done with Billy Tavish. The thought of him still brought a longing, and a small tear rolled down her cheek. She had really wanted it to happen, had actually pushed for it, she recalled. And it had. And it was wonderful. But she knew a dead end when she felt one, and had done the sacred ritual to separate them energetically. Now she was returning home to Malibu and Sky. Sky Monroe was nervous, a little too much, he thought, as he readied himself for Chandra Rose's return home. Soul Step just hadn't been the same without her. He smoothed his shoulder-length blonde hair and made sure his beard was trimmed close, like he knew she liked. His muscular body was tight and firm from the many rounds of jiu-jitsu he had been doing to keep his mind off what was really going on up north. Sky prided himself on his appearance and his woman, but he often took too much time thinking about them both, and to Chandra's detriment, that often turned to jealousy. Sky knew what he wanted, and what he set his mind on it. Nothing was going to stop him. Now his Chandra Rose was coming home, and he could and would be able to sense if anything funny was happening with her. Chandra got to the baggage claim at LAX and smiled politely at the overly large welcome booth lady. She could sense fear and self-loathing a mile away, and had compassion for those who hadn't learned to love themselves. Chandra, on the other hand, was filled with self-love and a quiet courage that outwardly expressed itself as stoicism. She had often been described as cold by those that didn't know her, but her close friends knew she was simply keeping strong boundaries. In reality, she was a love bug with a penchant for kombucha and dry martinis. She also knew that she had to clearly keep her guard up when she saw Sky. If he ever found out what happened up north, well, he wouldn't, so she needn't concern herself, she thought. And then she recalled that at one point during her quick encounter with Billy, she'd even considered leaving Sky. And on that thought she winced with both pain and a deep surrender to the universe. If they were meant to part, then let that show itself sooner rather than later. For she didn't want either of them to get hurt. She just wanted peace and pleasure, the kind of pleasure one feels when all is right in the world. And often Sky's jealousy infringed on both her objectives, making her sometimes wish she was elsewhere. Sky folded himself into the vintage Jag and headed towards the airport. He wouldn't arrive empty-handed, as he'd had Marissa, his assistant, get him champagne and a room at the Ritz Marina del Rey. He didn't feel like driving back tonight and hoped that Chandra would be up for some romance and possibly more. He had gotten himself a pretty good supply of love-making toys, and he wanted to surprise her. If Chandra was anything, she was a red-hot lover from his perspective, and he wanted to do what he could to keep her satiated. As the Jag pulled into the cell phone parking area, he stopped in a numbered spot and texted Chandra. "Darling, I'm here. Is your flight in yet?" He punched quickly on the screen. He had waited 2 weeks, and that had been long enough. They hadn't really been apart that long, ever since that first night that he had pledged his love to her, and he had done what he could to keep her close. He had been a little taken aback by her trip, but he had let himself stay busy with work and working out. The time had passed quickly, and now it would all be a memory, albeit one that he didn't want to have to repeat very often. He didn't know what a self-actualization retreat was, but Chandra had been asked to speak there and was being paid quite handsomely to do so, so he couldn't very well stand in her way. Bleep. It sounds like a heartbeat. Bleep, bleep. His cell sounded, and he swiped to read the reply. "We've just landed, love. Picking up my bags, and we'll meet you outside. Where are you?" Chandra had typed quickly, her lacquered nails ticking out each letter on the Gorilla Glass. "Cell phone lot in the Jag," he responded. Chandra grabbed her Givenchy bag from the luggage claim. She breathed in deeply again and made her way to the shuttle that would drop her at the cell phone lot. There were so many cars waiting outside that she was glad he had decided not to meet her at the door. Better he meet her in a calm state than all hyped up from maneuvering the vintage car through tight LA traffic. She stepped off the shuttle and scanned the lot for the silver car. She spotted him all too quickly, and with a bounce in her step, she decided to make the most of it and welcome him back into her arms. Just stay balanced, she thought to herself. What Sky doesn't know won't hurt anyone. She calmed at the thought that she was in control of the situation. After all, she created her own reality, right? Chapter 2. Off topic. Chandra looked around at the parking area and saw the sleek Jag parked in the farmost and foremost corner. Well, here goes, she thought to herself as she walked powerfully towards the passenger side. Sky was up and out the driver's side as soon as he saw her form against the twilight. She was finally here, and he couldn't contain his joy at having her back in his arms. He reached for her before she had a chance to notice that he was almost running towards her. He swooped up the almost 6-foot-tall beauty into his arms and twirled her several times in his strong arms, 2 arms it would take to do that, burying his head in her shoulder-length curls. "Oh, babe, you don't know how I've missed you," he said, nuzzling her neck. Chandra had forgotten the strength of him and the feeling she got when they were close to each other. She nuzzled into him, letting their skin touch in all the right places. Sky was all she could say, as her mind quickly flashed back to Billy Tavish and his ghostly eyes. She calmed her tension and pulled away slowly. It was hard to see his eyes in the twinkle of the parking lot LEDs, but she could feel his gaze nonetheless. "I've got a surprise for you," he said, leading her towards the car while carrying her bag in the other hand. She rolled the larger case, and they worked to lift it into the boot of the small car. Sky helped her into the passenger side and got himself settled behind the wheel. "I hope you're not too tired," he said boldly. "I've asked Merlot to fix us a big feast." Merlot was Soulstep's head chef, and a damn good one at that. Soulstep had to cater to the high echelon crowd and had even come out on the latest spa magazine's top 10 spas in the USA. something Sky was very proud of. He had created the small boutique spa out on Malibu Beach as a testament to his rugged demeanor and with a small loan from Mom and Dad. Due to his amazing networking skills and palms greased in all the right places, he had been able to pay back that loan in less than 2 years, while also bringing Soul Step online as a top destination for the trendy LA star set. The spa knew how to keep a tight lid on whoever was staying there, even having the personnel sign a seeming gag order that risked their job if word of anyone famous staying there was leaked to the press. Sky had made a name for himself with the chic underground circuit as well, and catered to the nouveau riche, many of whom remained nameless in the outside world, but made their millions from smart under-the-table business deals. Soul Step was Sky's baby, and he only wanted one other thing, and that was Chandra Rose. From that first interview where she had charmed him with her psychic skills and 6-foot Creole charm, he had hired her on the spot, and had admired her on the spot, too. But it had taken him 2 years to profess his love to her directly, although he had wondered why someone with such badass intuitive skills hadn't figured it out long before that. But Chandra had known from that first meeting long ago that theirs was a karmic contract that needed to play out. And play out it had, and in between the fighting and the making up, she had known that this was part of her twin flame journey, although time and again she had been the one to pull away. The last time she had left for home in Louisiana and back to Mom and Dad's in order to get over Sky's jealousy over her interaction with Rob Strom. Clearly there had been something there, but again Chandra had relinquished the thought of anything there to the fact that yet another man she admired and quietly desired belonged to someone else. Billy Tavish flashed her mind again, and she realized with a pang of guilt that she had pushed that one too far. She would, however, never forget the feeling of him within and around her. Good love goes like that. But for now, she needed to focus on Sky, forget about Billy, and get on with her life. She wanted something beyond what she could feel and do right now. It wasn't Sky or Billy or anything she could put her finger on. It only felt like a soft, sweet longing in her heart that bordered on sadness. And she vowed that this time she was going to figure it out. Something was calling her to address it, and she decided that she was going to spend the coming weekend in deep meditation and contemplation, working with her guides to bring this to the surface and into her awareness. What she would find there, she had no idea. But she had the feeling that whatever it was held the key to so much more than she could ever imagine. But for tonight she was Sky's, and she turned and smiled sweetly at him as he took her hand and headed the car out towards the hotel and the dinner that Merlot had packed up for him. Yes, he couldn't have been any happier in this moment.